So welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be looking at arranging some beautiful gladioli and some lilies. Now the lilies are open, and the reason that I'm using them open today is so that you can see what the design looks like when it's finished, rather than imagining what it's going to look like when the flowers are fully opened. Now I'm going to start with some supermarket bought gladioli. Now it is the season for gladioli, so they should be available in the supermarket, and I'm going to do almost like two columns, and I'm starting on the left hand side with three of the gladioli, nice and straight and tall, leaving enough space between them so that when they open you can really appreciate the individual flowers and the colours. I'm just going to drop this down so that you can see the full height of the floral design. And if you look from the side, you'll see that I've stepped the flowers so that it gives enough space between them so those flowers can open without being squashed or damaged. You'll be able to see that I've started on the left hand side of the floral foam. If I drew a line down the middle, you can almost see that I'm starting to one side. So really what I'm going to do is group the different flower materials together. So there's a little bit more of a modern way of arranging. And if we look at the floral foam, you can see that I'm above the edge of the container, so that if I decide to bring anything out at the side, there's enough room there for me to put in some small flowers or maybe some greenery. So a nice simple column structure there with the gladioli sitting in the back half of my floral foam, which is going to leave enough room to put a flower there in the front. And on the opposite side, I'm going to add in the lilies. Now they are really open. There's not a great deal of buds that I could use to create some height. But what I can do with a piece like that is just remove the more open head. That can be used lower down in the floral arrangement. And I can use the bud to start the height on the opposite side. So ideally in a floral design, we want to have the smaller flowers at the top and on the edges, and the more open flowers towards the middle. But I'm a bit restricted today because my flowers are fairly open. And what I really want to achieve here is to have the lilies all grouped together on one side to create that real visual impact. I can reuse this one because the stem is long enough. And what I've already done off camera is I've removed all of the pollen off the lilies, so I'm not going to be at risk of damaging my clothing or soft furnishings, linen, that type of thing. And I'm just going to use my final two lilies. One of them I'm going to remove from the main stem, but these are going to come more down towards the front, but allowing enough space at the bottom for me to fit in a bit of greenery. And what I've done is created that real visual impact there on the right hand side of the arrangement, which will balance off beautifully with the gladioli as they start to open. Now the right side of the arrangement, as you're looking at it, is visually a bit more heavy. So what I'm going to do at the back, just behind those gladioli, is to introduce some palms. This is going to help to create some depth and give the arrangement that three-dimensional effect that you'll hear me talk about in all of the videos that I do. And I don't want to create a triangular effect, so I'm not going to bring any material out really wide on the side. I'm going to keep it quite compact and upright so that the style is more of vertical arrangement than something like a triangle. My next flower is going to be a lovely garden flower. This is a beautiful white hydrangea, and that's going to tuck down really low there. It's going to help cover the foam. It's going to give me some depth, and it's going to be sitting really close to the floral foam. Now the hydrangea has worked in two different ways. It's covered my floral foam in one easy placement, and it's also given the arrangement some depth. This is the method that we normally do with foliage to cover our foam. And then what I'm going to do on top is to extend the height out slightly by placing two of the lovely Arum lilies through the centre of that hydrangea head, just to give a little bit of added height and a contrast in shape and texture. And these two Arum lilies really suit this style. And I did say that I wasn't going to extend the height out too far because I didn't want that triangular shape. But what I'm going to do now is introduce a large fascia underneath to really finish off the design and create a little bit of drama on that side. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to introduce some of the Aspidistra leaf. But I'm going to leave these fairly long just so that we're creating a design that's more asymmetric than symmetric. I don't want to put the two Aspidistra in so that they're exactly the same length. So this one I'm going to make slightly shorter just by removing off some of the base leaf. And that will give me a shorter leaf to work with, just to tuck in on that one side there. The two of them will sit nicely on top of one another. And in that front section there, just in between, I'm going to place some of the small pieces of the asparagus fern. Now this is commonly known as Ming fern, and if you haven't already seen the previous video, I mentioned that this was a foliage that was really popular maybe 10 years ago, and we don't generally see it used very much these days. But I've got some in the studio this week, and it's a really great contrast between that very flat, heavy leaf. Then the remaining piece of asparagus fern is missing the greenery on the bottom, but I can still use the top section just up here at the back. It's a nice contrast in texture alongside that palm, and it brings a little bit of softness right to the top, which contrasts really nicely against the lilies. And then my final placement is going to be these lovely Setaria grasses. Now these have been in the studio for about 2 weeks, and they've dried naturally. It's really warm here in the UK at the moment, which is quite unusual for the UK. They have dried really nicely, which means I'm going to be able to use them for a long time yet. And I'm going to place 3 little heads just nodding there over the front of the container, which really helps to soften the front and define the outline there at the front. And now I feel that this area here needs something of interest, really just to define the outline and give me something to fade away to the side rather than finishing with those really big lilies. And I'm going to use flower seed head. This is the allium seed head. So we've just got this really interesting dried format on the top. And when you open it up, you've got this almost like an allium shaped head on the top. And I'm thinking to really use the twists and the turns on the outside of the arrangement to bring a little bit of interest and to highlight that really modern look that I'm trying to create. So that's one of the little alliums there. Now, if you grow onions in the garden, you might be more familiar with this little seed head, because this is what will come on your onions if you leave them go to seed. This one's a little bit more stubborn, but we'll take our time to get that open. They haven't got the nicest of smell to them because they are from the onion family, but they're such an unusual shape to use. And that's really just going to bring in a little bit of exciting movement on the opposite side. I'm going to use 3, and I think then the design is completely finished. Now, over the last couple of weeks, you will have seen more than one arrangement used with the same type of flower. I like to make an arrangement, then take it apart and recreate something else with it, because you get to see how versatile flowers can be. So you might have already seen these flowers before, but I've arranged them in very different ways. And unintentionally, I've probably formed a bit more of a modern triangle. If we look at the outline, it's definitely a triangular shape. Because I'm not too keen on it being such a formal triangular shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in these papyrus grasses. So this is a marginal plant that grows in a pond, or it will grow in a bucket. And I'm going to use these just to make the left-hand side of the arrangement a little bit longer, so that we're making an asymmetrical design rather than something that's very formal and too much like that traditional triangle. So I think I'm more happy with the way that has turned out. I'm just going to fill the back in with some short pieces of the asparagus fern, just to make sure all that floral foam is covered. In really warm weather like we're having at the moment, it's really important that the back of that floral foam is completely covered. If it's not covered, it will dry out really quickly, and then your flowers won't have any water and they will die prematurely. So thank you as ever for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this floral design. If you are loving the channel, then please subscribe to the channel, because it really helps it grow and helps other people find us. Comment in the box below whether you love it or hate it, and stay to the end because you will see close-ups of the individual flowers and the finished design. And I look forward to seeing you for the next video very soon.